Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Toxic Encounters book. So I have another topic that I would like to discuss from the book, and it is family dynamics. And this topic is explored in chapter 4 of the book, and the book is titled Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships, Part 1, and it is part 1 of a 3-part series. So with family dynamics really does inform many of the romantic decisions that we make. Whatever we saw in our childhood, all the way to teenagerhood and all the way to young adulthood, directly has an impact on how we choose a mate, how we perceive romantic relationships, and how we think about the person that is standing before us, who is standing before us. It also informs how we see ourselves, as contributing to a romantic relationship, whether or not we actually have the capacity, the knowledge base, the ability. Thinking about knowledge base is very important, because we usually do what we know. We do what we've been exposed to. So if all we have been exposed to has been a single parent household, where the parent was either a mother or father, that's what we know. That is the base, the knowledge base of our relationship building, romantic relationship building, especially if that single parent brought in another person into the household and expected that person to be a mother or a father figure to us. And so then what we will often do, instead of saying, I don't want to do that with my future family and my child, and I want the husband to be in the house, or I want the mother to be in the house, we sort of adopt the very same patterns that we have been culturally, socially nurtured in. So then we end up becoming single parents ourselves. It's just something, the pattern, the thinking, the belief system is just passed down as if we are inheriting money. Instead of inheriting money, we are inheriting a belief system, a pattern of behavior. And until we realize that there is an error in that pattern of behavior, we will just continue the patterns. So family dynamics is something that I wish we all took a course in, maybe took a course in psychology, sociology, communication, any kind of course that would sort of introduce us to what the family home is, what the family dynamic is. We usually don't learn about these concepts until we get to college and we are required to take those courses. But it will benefit a person who is thinking about becoming a parent to take a psychology course, especially a lifespan, the concept of lifespan courses, right? So family dynamics, I'm just going to read the questions and then add some analysis. What is the direct link between family background, childhood experience, and men and people in general pursuing a rebound relationship? What were the perceptions of relationships within the immediate family environment? How was mom perceived by dad? And how was dad perceived by mom? So these are some interesting questions that I created from just thinking about the content that I developed in this chapter. And the content is going to center on the rebound relationship and how we choose rebound relationships instead of maintaining the core relationship. So the book, of course, is about rebound relationships. So I wondered, when I was creating the content for chapter 4, whether there was some sort of link back from the adult who is standing before you as a 100% responsible adult, who is part of a core relationship, whether that is a marriage, a long-term common law situation, whether that adult chose to step outside of his or her marriage or long-term situation, chose another partner like a side chick or just an affair partner. If that choice was linked to maybe a rebound relationship that they saw within the family dynamic. Did mom, when mom divorced dad, did she immediately choose a partner, or did she wait? Did she wait before she actually got into another relationship, or did she move in someone quickly after divorcing dad or separating from her romantic partner? And so if that is true, if mom did that or if dad did that, does does mom and dad's decision inform our decisions today to pursue the very same thing? That we learn that instead of taking time to reflect on the previous relationship, we decided to quickly pursue another relationship shortly. I mean, just shortly after ending a relationship. That has some sort of impact on what we do as adults. And so I haven't tested this theory. It is a question that I came up with after writing this chapter in the book, and I just wondered it myself. And it might be something that I seek out much later for research purposes. But what you see your mom do, and what you see your dad do, and what you see your primary caregiver do does have an impact on how you choose your mate. I know we often say that sometimes men would choose their mothers, or women would choose their fathers, but a female child can also choose her mother in a romantic mate. A male child could also choose his father, strange enough, in a romantic mate, because you don't always have to choose based upon their character or something like that. You could look at their habits. For example, you can have a situation where the father is a great financial manager, and the son decides that he's going to be a great financial manager, and it is important that he choose a mate who is also a great financial manager. However, if his mother is not a great financial manager, and she likes to spend the father's money, he might end up choosing to marry a woman just like that, even though he adopts the attitude and the characteristics of his father to be a great financial manager. I don't know why we do that. It would seem like, I know people love to say that we choose our opposites, but it would seem like we would want to choose the same person who we are, how we think. That if I've been exposed to someone who's a great financial manager, and I have adopted that as a belief system for myself, and I carry it out in action, why am I choosing people who are not great financial managers? So then when you add the rebound relationship context to it, and you have this person who has been exposed to a father who is a great financial manager, but ends up marrying his mother who is not, and is very financially unstable, something about that dynamic is going to bother him later, and he's going to end up leaving the relationship to pursue someone who looks and thinks like him, when in reality he had every opportunity to do that, to choose the right person the first time. And I don't know why he would identify more with the mother. Maybe because he saw the father sort of have some sympathy for the mother, or just struggle with the mother not being financially stable, spending all the money, crying about it, being remorseful, and then he gave her another chance. The father gave her another chance, and then she repeated the patterns all over again. So that too is passed down. That even though the son would like to do better than his father, he finds out that he's really no different than his father. And until he recognizes that on his own and notices that every decision that he makes from that vantage point becomes almost like a rebound decision. He will continue within those patterns. And that's why he might seek a rebound relationship to soothe him where he hurts. Here it is. He's now grown. He's still a great financial manager, but he ended up marrying his mother and the wife that he's with, and she spends all the money too, to the point that they may struggle with their rent or to pay bills. And so to soothe himself, he will step out of that relationship, choose a rebound situation, and cultivate that person as a backup mate. Mate switch. Now, he's not going to leave the partner because he saw that his father did not leave his mother. And so that too is passed down, that you just kind of tolerate the situation because you don't feel like you have any other option. So that's a link that I'm thinking about and considering. Is not scientific, of course, but it is something that is of concern. So then, what were the perceptions of relationships within the immediate family environment? Dad seemed to have a good relationship with his son. If dad was a good financial manager and the son decided to adopt that as a belief system, carried it out. He got a job in high school. He kept a job. He sat down at the table with his dad. They talked about money, finances, things like that, while mom was in the kitchen cooking. And so that's what the perception of relationship, essentially, mom never sat down at the table and discussed finances. She never sat down or respected dad enough to ask him about how to spend money. So the assumption is mom didn't feel it necessary to ask dad about how to spend money, for whatever reason, for whatever justification that she felt she had in the moment, that dad is not really worthy enough of a provider to sit down and ask questions and discuss money, and that I'm just going to spend it however way I want to spend it, and dad would just have to find a way to make it back up, right? So mom likely never had a job. She's always been a housewife. Nothing wrong with being a housewife, but it does matter whether or not, as a housewife, you understand the role of finances. And so that if dad is always mad at mom for spending money, and dad has cultivated some affairs of his own as a way of just soothing himself, like his son eventually does, then he feels disrespected in a relationship, and he feels like he can't change the situation. Because if you are stepping out of the family dynamic to cheat, to commit some kind of cheating incident, that means you don't feel like the current conflict can be solved or resolved. You must feel helpless, because why aren't you taking on a leadership role, setting financial boundaries for each person in the household, for the family dynamic as a whole and the marriage as a whole? Why aren't you doing it? Why don't you feel that is a necessary thing to do, especially when you are the only one bringing in the financial resources? So perceptions of relationships within the immediate family environment says a lot, because while mom and dad are having a conversation that leads to an argument, the son and any other child within the family dynamic is sitting back watching them like he's watching TV, like it's two actors on a stage playing out their roles, and he's looking at the role of the woman in the relationship, in a marriage, what she does, and he's looking at the role of a father in a relationship, in a marriage, and what he does. And he's either going to say in that moment that is not something that I want for me and my family, or he's going to adopt the very same patterns that he sees his mother and father do. So the perception is, from the son's point of view, dad is not necessarily weak, but he doesn't know how to handle mom. And in his way, he might say, well, when I get a wife, I'm going to make sure I handle my wife. But then he finds out that the type of wife that he has is even worse than his mom. And that he discovers that it's just as hard to manage a romantic relationship, and that it might be much more peaceful that I step out into a rebound relationship so that I can get some comfort where I hurt. Because again, that's what he sees his dad doing as well. So the perceptions of relationships within the immediate family environment, of course, has a great impact on how we see the world, how we perceive the world. If we see the dynamics within the house as being conflict ridden, one person who's supposed to be the leader of the family not being able to resolve conflict, we're going to take that concept of lack of conflict resolution and take it outside of the home and struggle with it as well, because no one is communicating. Only dad is fighting about finances. Mom is crying because dad is fussing with her. They still don't resolve anything, and mom repeats her patterns and dad repeats his patterns. So perception does matter. So then how was mom perceived by dad, and then how was dad perceived by mom? So if dad saw mom as someone he had to take care of, essentially, because this dad I'm talking about is the 50s dad, right? The 60s dad, the 70s dad, the dad who was taught to be the primary provider of the home, to work, do whatever you got to do to work, provide the finances, provide the leadership, and mom stayed home and she took care of the house. Sometimes she ran the budget, right? So dad perceived mom in the same way that his dad perceived mom, his mom. And again, it's just this passing down of patterns and beliefs and habits that never get challenged. That sure, there were some situations that were for that season where women were really not necessarily permitted to work outside of the home if they had a husband, because having a husband was the standard for basically working. You didn't have to work. But then there were women who did not have a husband, and there was this expectation that they would work. And they did work. Some women went to college not necessarily to have a career. They went to college because it was some form of etiquette, social training, right? And then there were other women who actually went to college because they had to get a job. And so when you're looking at the perceptions of mom and dad and mom, and how they both see each other, it depends on the generation. It depends on the season. It depends on whether or not each person has education. Each person has the capacity to build and sustain relationship. Mom, in the case of dad being a great financial manager, but she's spending all the money, she doesn't have a good relationship with money. And thereby it is showing up in the relationships that she's having with her husband and with her son and any other child within the family environment. So mom has a struggle with money, with managing money. She's acting like a child. If she's spending all the money that her husband makes, and there is a deficit at the end of the month, then there is an issue with that, because what if the husband dies? Will she ever learn good financial management? And no matter whether you have a husband or not, you still need to understand good financial management. You still need to be a good financial manager. You should not spend all your money at the end, by the end of the month, and you don't have anything. What happens is you will find a way to rebound to some unethical situation to some immoral situation, to something that is temporary, that's not going to work for you long term. That's another way that you could rebound. You don't always necessarily have to rebound to an individual. You can rebound to getting credit cards. Instead of developing a sound financial relationship with money that you can touch, you decide that you're just going to continue to spend money and then find ways to close the gap by getting a bunch of credit cards. And then now you are in credit card debt. So then you still don't have a good relationship with debt, because then you find a way to get maybe a friend. You rebound to a friend to get that friend to help you to pay for the debt, and then help you to help to give you some money. So regardless, you're still not developing a good relationship with money. And so it's that form of rebounding. So then if you look at the situation with the mother spending all the money, the husband's money, if he says, I'm cutting you off, or I'm just going to give you allowance, like him, he decides to rebound and check out and have an affair, she could actually do the same thing too. She could cultivate a backup mate and find a man who will give her what she wants. And she could keep it quiet. He would never know. Her husband would never know. And she'll find a man who will give her whatever she wants. And then eventually she's going to end up leaving that relationship with her current husband for the man who will continue to give her what she wants. And that's really what rebounding is, when you add it to this context of family dynamics and why people tend to step out of their relationship. So how mom was perceived by dad, how dad was perceived by mom. Mom perceived dad in a way that basically suggests, if you can't give me, you got to give me what I want. And if you can't give me what I want, I will find someone who will. And that usually it usually ends up that way. That's why both parties to the family dynamic will cultivate their backup mates, their affair partners, until they each, or one of each, decides to mate switch altogether. And if this is going on within the family dynamic, just think about what the kids think about this situation. So family dynamics is a very tough topic to discuss, because there are so many factors, varying factors and differences and perspectives. And I just gave you an example with financial management leading to one of the partners or both of the partners stepping out of the relationship using a rebound. And the rebound is usually for like ego boost or something like that. I just use that as an example, but there are many, 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 many more examples that I could have used. But I want to keep this audio to a good time. So this is Family Dynamics, Chapter 4, considering the link between childhood experiences and people pursuing a rebound relationship, which extends also to a discussion about the family environment and perceptions between husband and wife, mom and dad. So this book is available on Amazon, Toxic Encounters, Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships, Part 1. And that's, again, Part 1 of a 3-part series. You can visit my website, reginayfavors.com. Also, like, subscribe, and follow. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in Regina Y. Favors. Thank you very much for listening.